Mr. Floyd Furr. Despite graduating as salutatorian of the Picayune High School class of 1948, Floyd Furr did not come to Pearl River until he had spent 4 years working in the composing section of the New Orleans Times-Picayune newspaper. When he turned his attention to education, he was elected to the student council and was president of the science club and valedictorian of the class of 1954. But Furr did not spend all of his time studying. He recalls the Fabulous Five, as he and 4 other students called themselves, dressed in bright shirts and string ties, sporting straw hats and walking canes. They traveled to area high schools to flirt with the girls. The first major decision I made was attending Pearl River, and it led to everything else. My freshman year was the most exciting. I had a 34 Plymouth 4-door, and we would all crowd in. After leaving Pearl River, Furr went on to earn a degree with honors in petroleum geology from Mississippi State University, where he was inducted into Sigma Gamma Epsilon and Phi Kappa Phi honor societies. He worked as a geologist with Humble Oil and Refining Company, now Exxon, in Houston, Texas, and with Amoco in New Orleans. He spent the last 8 years of his career as a consultant with ORI before retiring at age 55. He has been a member of professional associations and a major supporter of the Boy Scouts of America, the Mississippi State Foundation, and the Pearl River Community College Development Foundation. He and his wife Ethel are the parents of 3 sons and have 7 grandchildren that reside in Picayune, Mississippi. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Floyd Furr.
Hi, I'm Chase Ladner, and today we're talking with Dr. Floyd Furr.
Hello there, Chase.
Can you share some of your time and experience with your time at Pearl River?
Yeah, I'd be glad to. I entered Pearl River College in 1952, and graduated in 54. And I guess some of my most memorable experiences have been not in the classroom, but on extracurricular activities around the college, especially in the dormitory life. We were so much different than it is today. We would bring our shotguns to school, believe it or not. In the back of our car and go squirrel hunting in the afternoons after classes. And one evening we had been out hunting and killed 6 or 8 squirrels and brought them back to the dormitory and decided we were going to cook them and eat them. And we found a popcorn popper, enough grease to fry the squirrels and cook them. And the squirrels turned out, the aroma was all over the dormitory, and everybody was coming by the room to eat some squirrel, and we ran out of squirrels. So Ladonis Seal, Larry Seal, he said, well, I got my headlight and shotgun, I think I'll go get some rabbits. So he left the dormitory and walked back in the back of the woods, which was pastures back then. And we heard a couple of booms, and he came back with a couple of rabbits, and we cooked them. So that was kind of like something is going on in the dormitory practically every night or something. So, but as far as the college, I was, when I came, I was going to be an engineer, and changed my mind in sophomore year because I had, my brother-in-law had a neighbor that was a geologist, and it sounded really exciting to be a geologist, so I changed my major to geology. Then from there I went on to state and graduated as a petroleum geologist. We had, I think, I already mentioned Lulu Webb because she was a math teacher. And when we started, my class started, there was about 30 or so in Algebra 1. We went up the stages of math all the way up through to integral calculus, and there was 3 of us left by the time we reached that. So my roommate was one of those that was in that class. And when we went to state, I decided I didn't exactly want to follow up. I mean, I was afraid that I might have not had enough background. He took Integral 2 at state, and it was mid-semester before they caught up to Lulu Webb. So we had a great math department here at that time.
How much did you really enjoy being a petroleum geologist? Do you ever regret not being an engineer?
No, from the very beginning, I realized that that's really what I want to be in my profession. I guess I'm a frustrated archaeologist. In school, you go out in the field and you collect fossils, minerals, but when you get into the oil business, you don't even need any of that. It's completely different. But I enjoyed every minute that I was a geologist, and although I changed several companies, winding up with as a consultant for Freeport-McMoran, and with an overriding interest in my prospects. Anyway, I always go back to my original decision to go to Pearl River. And your first decision is always the most important, because everything after that depends entirely on that decision. And I always think at Pearl River College, I made that decision to be a geologist and followed through with it. And I credit Pearl River with my success.
Yes, sir. What advice would you give an everyday student here at the river and choosing their career?
Choose something you like. Choose something that you can live with. I mean, I hate to see people take courses that go into careers that they never like. They're just there, and every day is just a chore to go to work. So think carefully about what you want to be and what you'd be happy at, and follow that career.
How do you feel about Pearl River as a whole and its role in education as a community college?
I think Pearl River College is probably all the community colleges in Mississippi and around the states. I think they offer a real advantage to students, because so many students out of high school do not know what they want to be, and they select their career at a school, and sometimes you're lost at the big colleges. You don't have the one-on-one or as close a relationship to your professors and teachers, and by choosing your career, I think junior colleges offer a ideal situation to make that right decision.
Yes, sir. Some final questions. Where did you end up working for as your final endeavor before you retired?
Well, I went through two major companies, in Humble Oil and Refining Company, which is Exxon today, and Amoco. I spent 8 years with Humble in Texas as a production geologist. Then I went into exploration, and I went with Amoco and stayed 12 years. Then one day when I was showing a prospect to Freeport-McMoran, the CEO offered me a job as a consultant with an overriding interest, which is a royalty on anything you find. And that was a tough decision for me, because if I hadn't made that decision, I wouldn't have gotten to be where I am today. So it was a tough decision, but I made it, and I'm very happy. Now I retired at 55 and never looked back.
Well, it was very interesting talking to you today, and that's all the questions I have for you. So it was a pleasure to talk to you.
Good.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. I want you to notice that I brought my notes, and I'm going to put them right here on the podium where I can read them, I see them. I only made a speech to PRC faculty and friends and students when I was valedictorian in 1954. And I had a long speech to make, but unfortunately, halfway through it, I forgot it. I'd placed my notes down under the podium. At least I had enough sense to do that. So I pulled them out and finally found my place and finished my speech. Well, that year, they were broadcasting the commencement exercises over WRJW. And my uncle was in Picayune listening to it. When I got back to Picayune, he said, "What happened?" He said, "Boy, I thought you fainted." I would like to thank, of course, Dr. Lewis and the Board of Trustees, the staff and faculty of Pearl River Community College for this honor. It certainly is a great honor, and me and my family appreciate it. After listening to these other fellers, I don't even know if I should be here. I would like to talk a little bit about decisions I made in my profession, and I can think of 4 major decisions that I did. And the first one of them was when I decided to go to Pearl River Junior College, and from that, I think all the other decisions I made later fall into place. I was the first decision after that. When I graduated from Picayune High School, college was not an option. But I'd watched my mother and daddy struggling trying to send my sister to college, and I decided that I was going to get a job and help them out. And I went to the Times-Picayune. My daddy was a printer and worked for 4 years. And in the latter part, in 51, 52, I guess, I began to go to Picayune and date the Picayune High School girls and pal with some Picayune High School seniors. Most of them was going to come to Pearl River College. And of course, they encouraged me to come with them, but I just bought me a brand new 51 Chevrolet, and I sure hated to lose that. But my mother and daddy, they supported me, and they sold their car for $800 and took up the notes on my Chevrolet and the car too, and gave me the $800. I paid $100 for a 1934 Plymouth 4-door, and I was off to college. I began to, I selected engineering when I first got to Pearl River, and later, as a sophomore, I changed to geology, influenced by a friend of my sister's who was a geologist in New Orleans. And but I would like to tell you a little PRC story. Everybody has PRC stories, and this one is one on me. I don't know how many of y'all are familiar with the Pearl River Dormitory, the layout of it, but it was a 2-story building with most of the rooms on the 2nd floor. Downstairs was a apartments for faculty, and at the other end was a stairwell going upstairs, and also the bathrooms were all downstairs. One night, late, I was up studying, and I decided to take a shower. And since there was no one stirring or everything was quiet, I just simply stripped down in my room, tied a towel around my waist, and went down the stairs to take a shower. I finished my shower and dried off, but instead of putting the towel back around my waist, I threw it over my shoulder. And I stepped out in the hall, looked both ways, nobody was coming. So I turned my back and headed toward the stairs. At the same time, Prof. Seal and his wife entered the other end. Prof. Seal caught me before I got to my room and proceeded to give me a lecture on modesty and proper attire. I think I dropped my soap while I tied the towel back around my waist. But that was one of the most embarrassing moments of my life. After graduating from Pearl River, I went to Mississippi State, got a degree in petroleum geology, and I had several offers from major companies, and I chose, and this is my second decision, I chose Humble Oil and Refining Company, Exxon today, and worked in Houston for 8 years. And while I was there, I got a call from a good friend and my roommate, Warren Seal, telling me that Amoco was looking for a geologist in New Orleans. That would get me back to Picayune, and that's what I wanted. I resigned from Humble and sold my house and moved to New Orleans, lived there a year, and then bought a house in Picayune, built a house in Picayune, and began a 20-year commuting adventure. After Amoco, I rose to area geologist in the Louisiana onshore. And the final year that with Amoco, the drilling budget had been cut, so we were out selling prospects to other companies or getting partners. And it was on one of these trips that I was in the office of Jim Bob Moffitt, who is CEO of McMoran Exploration Company, and he offered me a job as a consultant with an overriding interest in the wells in my prospects. Now that was a tough decision because I had 12 years with Amoco, a good retirement, and I had a good job, good paying job. But I took the chance and went with Amoco. I'm with McMoran. And 8 years later, and about 20 exploratory wells, I had found enough oil and gas to feel financially secure in my job, and so I retired at 55, and then I've been retired for 30 years, and I think I want to thank Pearl River College for putting me on the road that led to a successful career.